So we explained why we don't have tchelas today because of the greatness, because it's from the level of chokhmah. Bizman hagols it can't come down. And he said, "V'zeu chokhmah bereish and chokhmah b'soif." So this is what it says. This is from the Pardes Rimonim. He brings down over there that chokhmah, it starts with chokhmah, and that's mereish magid mereishis achris. Mereishis has a yud, which is chokhmah, and achris has a yud, is chokhmah, which means that you start with chokhmah and at the end is chokhmah. Always has to be the level of chokhmah. Ki ein soif einoi shoira elo b'bchinas chokhmah. For the ein soif doesn't rest, but in the level of chokhmah. And the reason why you need the level of chokhmah, liyoisoi b'chinas bittul, because it's a level of bittul. And therefore, so how does it work? The beginning says like this, lekach, and therefore, Ein Sof mislabish b'chokhmah da'ak. The Ein Sof dresses up in the level of chokhmah v'adam kadmin. V'adam kadmin mislabish b'chokhmah da'atzilus chulu. So these are levels of bittul b'metzias. He says, v'chokhmah law, the supreme level of chokhmah b'chinas bittul mamish. That's actual subjugation. Like we say in the pasuk, v'nachnu mo. What are we? Totally bittul. Ki ha-chokhmah me'ayin temotze. Because chokhmah comes from ayin. It's a level of total bittul. But ubino, by the level already of bino, yes, over there is already a widening of the river. The river starts off at a point of chokhmah, but then it goes and widens, becomes rechoves hanor, which is Yisrach, was hadaz v'hasoge. That's the widening of the level of das and grasping. Mas'ein ken chokhmah oimek hamusik, as opposed to chokhmah, which is the depth of what you're grasping. That is b'chinas helem. That's a level of helem, of hidden yoshes. The place where Hashem's is hidden and dark. B'chinas Eden. This is Gan Eden is Bina, but this is the Eden, the Chokhmah Mekoir HaTainug. That is the root, the source of the Tainug. Ki b'chinas Chokhmah Atzmo lenikar shum Tainug. In Chokhmah itself, you can't tell any Tainug. Rak b'gilui HaChokhmah ba'asoga Bina. Only when the Chokhmah is revealed, when we understand with Bina, then then to give to those who love me, becomes a Metzias. Then there is Gan Eden Elyon. So this is Chokhmah Bereish. Chokhmah Bereish, that's the level of Bittul B'Metzias. That's the level of Chokhmah, the Bittul Lachnuma in Atzilus. Malchus, Chokhmah Tato, that's the Chokhmah B'Soif, that's the Malchus, is the Chokhmah below. That is Liyos Bittul Hayesh, so that there should be a subjugation, Yesh, like we say, V'anachnu Koirim U'mishtachavim, we kneel and we prostrate. Utso Hashomayim, another puzzle, Chom Mishtachavim, which means Sheyesh Mi Shemevatel Etzatzma U'mishtachavim. So there is someone, there is Anachnu, there is Tzva Shemayim, and they bow. Which means a bitl hayesh. There is a yesh and a mevatel. I masha kos v'dvira maschil in the Mamer kabram leyodainu. V'chokhmah da'atzilu, chokhmah lo da'atzilus, v'chinas mutzaz chulayin shom. V'nikras isha. That's called an isha. Eish hey, because that is a fire, but it's already hay. It's after these chalkus, the hay, moitzois, haper. These are the 5 expressions of the mouth. It's chalkus, adibur, Ba'asora Mamoris. That's dividing up the saying into the 10 sayings. In the expression, there is no division yet, but when it comes out to the expression of the 10 saying, Liya is kamon mine simtsumim v'yischalkus. There should be many kinds of contractions and dividing of the word. And that's why we call the Olam Hadibur b'shem Isha. We call it level of Isha ki meish lukachazois, because you can't level of Isha. Shekdei li is bechinas Isha mimata l'mayla, so that it should be an Eish, a Isha, from below, from the bottom to below, like it says in the pasuk that to your husband be urine to be a sarusa dilatata, to be a chukala milo from the level of Isha, nimshach mibchinas ish, drawn down level of Ish, which is the Eish Yud. Ish is Eish Yud. Pirush. We have to get the Eish Yud to get the Isha. Pirush. Yud hu chokhma. Yud is chokhma v'nimshach mibchinas ish. Yud, which is chokhma, goes into the level of Ish, which is Huzah, which is the Zeir Ampin, Shubchinas Midos, Shadibur Mekabim Midos. The Dibur receives the Midos. Kagam the Abba Yosef Brato. So although the Brato comes from the Yesoid of Chochma, Abba Mikol Mokoim Harei HaSeichel Mashpia b'midas tchila. I think maybe it means to say it was a gam da'aba yosad barata. Gam is the level of yisoid that comes to the level of malchus through yisoid. Yosad abba yosad barata. Mekol mokoim harei haseichel mashpia b'midas tchila. First, the seichel comes to the midas, or it means abba yosad barata. From Abba comes to Malchus, but first, before Abba can come to Malchus, it has to come down in the level of Midas first. Because we see it, practically speaking, or in our experience, his Gabrus HaMidas, that the way the Midas strengthen themselves, so will be to the person the power of his speech. So min hamidas oila lemachshava v'ledibur. From the emotions, it goes up to the thought and to speech. What does it mean here? Before it comes down, v'derech klal, in a general way, we'll talk about here the midos is Ramach mitzvahs. We're talking about 248 mitzvahs, which are Ramach Evorim de Malko. That's where the Hamshocha, we're saying, from Chochma comes down from through the Ramach mitzvahs, which are the 248 limbs of the king. What's the cheshbon? What's the cheshbon of 248 limbs of the king with the 248 mitzvahs, with the 9 spheres, with the spheres? So like this: Keramach mitzvahs heim tes spheres de Zoh. The Ramach mitzvahs, the 248, those are the 9 spheres of Zoh. What does it mean when it says 9 spheres of Zoh? Meaning each one of the Zoh, of the Zeir Ampin, of the Midos is kolul from 9. Everything is kolul from 9. 9 spheres. We're talking besides Chochmah. So we're talking about the 9 spheres of Zoh. They are mekabel from the level of Chochmah. The Midos are mekabel from Chochmah. Shekol echad. How do we get to 248? Shekol echad kolul mites. Each one of the 9 spheres of the Zeir Ampin is included of 9 of the 9 spheres, which is Tes Pamim Tes Hein Pei Aleph. 9 times 9 is 81. And each of these levels, Yesh Gimel B'chinas, has 3 levels of Rosh, Toich, and Soif, the top, the middle, and the end. So it's 3 times 81. Imkein Gimel Pamim Pei Aleph, Hey Reish Mem Gimel. So basically, we're trying to make the cheshbon of Zoh. Zoh is 9 spheres, 9, and then you have 3 times 81 is 243. And then you have the Heich, Sodim, Hamagadilim. You have the 5 levels of chesed, which increase, which grow. The level of the midah is Harei Ramach. So 5 and 143 is 248. So it means the bottom line is Ramach mitzvahs nimshach milumaylo. From the Ramach mitzvahs, it extends from above. Sheyeh isha, that it should be an isha, which means isha baya. Hainu sheyeh bitl hayeh should be the bitl hayeh. Koyach lahalis mimata lamaylo should be the power to elevate from below to above. V'liyos neir havaya nishmas odom. So that the soul of man should be the neir of Hashem. The neir of Hashem, meaning the fire, the lamp of Hashem, and also we have the level of neir of 250 plus the 2 hands, as we said. Had it in the previous Mamer, it's explaining it. Vaya Mashakosim is the Parshas Mekates. Divra Mascheron v'Simchi Bas. Eich shal yidei hamitzvahs nimshach hakoyach liyas neravaya nishmas odom. That through the mitzvah you have the power to become neravaya nishmas odom. Ad until it says zeu titein emes liYaakov. V'chein b'divra maschil. I'm talking over there. So then, so in other words, through the Ramach mitzvah says you become a Neir Hashem Nishmasod. You become the lamp of Hashem. When does it become a Neir Shenimshach Ramach? When it comes down below into Nukva from the Zoh, it comes down into the Nukva from the Midas. Why? Because the 2 hands are added. His 2 hands are added. When the Amshocha comes down the Mata. It's going to say now, the level of 248 limbs technically includes the hands as well. How can we count the hands 2 times? He says there's 248 limbs. And then when we add to the 248 limbs the 2 hands, then we get 250. You get Nair. Then you get Nair, 250. So, but we already counted 248 already the hands. So he says, Bezoyer Rekia, Soif Parshas Truma B'dav Kuf Sam Above Hiksha. So there he asked the question, if you're going to add, you don't have 248 limbs. Because by the person, the 248 limbs are with the hands. If you're going to add the hands now, you don't have 248 limbs. He gives a long explanation. It's lacking, he doesn't conclude over there. Doesn't finish up. Over there he explains Kineir Ramach Evrei Hamalko Hamalach in train roim delay. He does say over there that not is true, notwithstanding the kasha, I don't know, but he doesn't answer it. He just says that's what it says over there. Apparently, he has a different interpretation. But this says in Pri Chaim. So we have 250. Biur Hadavar. So explaining this idea over here that you're getting the level of Ner when it comes down to Malchus is ki liyois nimshach oirin sof l'mata mata. In order for the oirin sof to extend below, if it would have been that hoya hakoil bottle beirin sof, then everything would have become subjugated to the light of the Ein Sof. There would be no creation of an entity because everything will be bottled. There needed to be a removal and a contraction after the expansion. Delay. And those are the two hands, Smoiloi, Tachas Laroshi, V'yiminei Techabkeni. That's the level of Smoil Laroshi, Tachas Laroshi, the Smoil and Yimin. V'ayim Hashikosu v'reshpash lachov dir maschin Avrom v'pirush v'yera v'yibeki yemechot. V'alkein Yesh b'Yisrael gimul b'chinas Kahanim levinim v'Yisraelim. So I'm not sure. We're talking about here two b'chinas over here of Trein Droin. We're talking about Chesed Gvura. So I'm not sure. It says by you like right? Valkein, I'm reading correctly. Valkein Yesh b'Yisrael gimul b'chinas Kahanim levinim v'Yisraelim. So he says those are the two hands. So maybe the three levels is a the Amshocha itself and then plus the two hands. Or other place says the Chochma bin Adas, which is the infusion, he says, because it comes from level Chochma. I'm not sure. It just says here, Balkein Yesh b'Yisrael Gimel B'chinas Kohanim Levim L'Yisraelim. He says the two levels, then he says three levels of Nirvana. Not sure. Got to look over this. So the root of bringing down this Amshocha, we're talking about now bringing down Chochma in the level of Bittul, in the level of Bia. But here we're talking about how does it come? It comes, we mentioned before, from Ak. It comes down from Odom Kadmon, the Chochma, dresses up the Ein Sof, dresses up in Chochma. So, what is the root that the Amshocha comes from Ein Sof and Chochma? Agam the Chakim v'loy Chochma Yediyah, even to the level of Chakim v'loy Chochma Yediyah. It seems like that's a very high level of Chochma, but still. Achli is Gilu b'chinas Chakim u'lemaylo me'achochma. So to be the level of Chakim is higher than Chochma. V'nikra arich ampin mebchinas sidus. That's called arich ampin, the long face that comes to the level of sidus. Moshel sided, this is the level of sidus. Moshel sided the same Magid Nishmos Eiden. The Moshel accepted the name of the Magid Nishmos Eiden. Like the hair of the head, which are leftovers of the intellect, which means they have really no connection to the essence. They're like totally foreign, separated. But the proof of this is when you cut the hair, you get no pain at all. And yoinkin min hamoyach beidnan larosh. They still nurture from the mind when they're on the head. When you have the hair on the head before you cut them, they nurture. It's like a cloud that comes up from the mind. That's the Moshre Mechin, and that's where the hairs grow. Basically, so this situs means that it's a very distant connection. The situs come from the head, but it's far away. So when we say that the chokhmah comes from Arichampin, comes like situs, kachin amshochas, erin sobarchu, li's chakim chulu, from the amshochas to be the level of chakim. That is what is not touching at all. It has no relationship. It has no value. The level of Chakim, Shabi Chakim has no value next to the Eidei Sof. From the Eidei Sof to be Chakim is a jump which is totally. Because when we talk about the Ein Sof, he remains alone before the world was created and afterwards created. And before Hashem, it doesn't take up any space, doesn't matter at all. Bit Lamalachim, Vanishome is the subjugation of the Malachim Neshomes. Sheim Yu Betem Lechlon Bein Sobaruchu, Eina Negei Lavis Barach Klal. That is not connected, doesn't touch him at all, whether they will be bottled or not. Rakim Shochazu. So the Amshacha to them, not giving them anything because doesn't affect, doesn't relate to it. Way example, this like Sidus, that they are from the leftover the Mechin. But still, they still nurture from the essence. So while they're totally distant, but yet there is a nurturing from there. The Pashas that Saba Apostle was so big the fish. And this Amshocha is Megal Galto that comes from the skull, which is Lamailo Bimchinas Moyach. Higher than the level of Moyach. Shaidezo is Havas Gilu Einisov. Liya is Bechinas Chochma Chulu. They create the revelation that itself to be the level of Chok. The Sidus, that symptom, that level brings about that the Insof should become a Chokma. And those, the hears, this symptom, they are the one that split the Ashpo and Amshocha is Hasogos Shoynes Bein Sof. So very, very various grasping the Sof come or many 10,000 levels of steps. That is, as the Rambam writes, Sichlim Nivdolim. They become distinguished. They are intellectually separated. They are separated intellectuals. Basically meaning that the angels and everybody is called an intellectual because what separates them is their intellect. The fact how much grasping they have in the Ein Sof, that makes one malach different than the other malach. How would you have one malach different than the friend? There's no space over there. Physically, we have space, but there is no space. The only way it could be separated since there is no body and there's no physical space. Say the difference is that in all the worlds from one world to the other world is based. That's based on the grasp of each person, of each individual, each one-on-one. As Eitz Chaim writes, the koitzi the sari, that the points of the here, that sar that comes to Chochmah we talked about, but the point of the here, make bereisha de zo me'achorav, that bangs on the head of the zo from behind, this is Chalkus Hadas. So should be this Chalkus Hadas. So this is the answer of before. What did we talk about before? The three. Ki Gimel Moichin Chabad v'Hadas Nechlak Chesed u'Gevura. Because the three Moichin, the Chochma bin Hadas. And then v'Hadas Nechlak Chesed u'Gevura. But I think also Chesed u'Gevura Avram Tzchuki Yaakov Chesed u'Gevura Tiferes. He doesn't talk about it. Oh, by the hands it was two. Chochma was two hands, but apparently the Das also splits. He says he says it's two, but the Moichin is three. I'm just thinking maybe you have to include also the level of Tiferes. And this concludes, where does these point of the here extend and finishes? In the level of Malchus and Nukva. I'm be Rabbi Chaim Sharatzitz Reish Perig Gimel. Vayin Shom Gamke in the Perig Hey. The Hainuli is Nimshach Mizeh Tcheles. So from this comes Tcheles. Why? Because we learned before that once it's Nimshach into Nukva, then that causes the Eish Milmato, and the fire that burns is the Tcheles. That's the Bitla Yesh. That causes the Tcheles. That means that it will come down up to the level of Malchus. That it will be to you Litzitzis to the level of Malchus. As we learned in the previous Mamer, it says the inyan from Atem Adveikim Hashem Elokeichem Chaim, that it is through the level of Bitla Yesh that you actually get Chaim. And then that will be a reminder. And you'll see it. What is Urisam Oisei? The Hainu Shebchina Sidus. That the level of Sidus, which is Sadeh Eshek Amar Nekei, the hair of his head is like clean wool. That level comes from Sadeshek Amar Nekei, should extend below in the Tcheles, which is Malchus Datzilus, and from there bringing the Bitl Oils.